Enjoy your meeting.
We're going to get started here in a few moments, so we'll just let everybody else get settled in. Give it a few more moments and then we'll get started.
Just a reminder, today's meeting is being recorded.
All right, good morning, everyone. This is Steve Warren with Top Speed Data. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We're going to go through some fun cloud training today. I'm sure a few more people will be getting on as we go through the introductions here. As most of you know on the call today, we are Top Speed Data. We are a premier partner with TeamLogicIT IT. And what we'll kind of go through at the beginning of this presentation is a little bit about how we work with you and how we can help you as we progress through the rest of this year and on. I am the Vice President of Technology at Top Speed Data. We have several other team members with us on the Top Speed Data team that are supporting you and your franchise. Their job is to be available for you for consulting and advising on different problem-solving solutions that you're looking to solve for your clients. We work together as a team, and so we'll be here for you to solve some of those problems that you can't find solutions to as it relates to different types of technologies. Can everyone see my screen? Can anyone see my screen?
Yep, I can.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I did earlier. I'm on the app, though. Oh, yeah, I see it.
And it says it's the presentation, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get started, guys. Obviously, what we've been doing, we had a nice webinar with a pretty sizable attendance last month. This month, we're going to cover a couple of different types of topics. Last month, we covered disaster recovery strategies and how to differentiate yourself in the community. We really didn't get too deep into the technology aspects of it because you guys somewhat already know how to design and uncover disaster recovery and data backup solutions. What we primarily talked about was how to differentiate yourself and how to sell solutions versus selling products. We talked about how to sell your services in designing a disaster recovery strategy. As we all know, a lot of companies don't really have a DR strategy in place. They're just kind of crossing their fingers and using some tape drive or what have you to back up their data and really no DR strategy in place. So we encourage you to sell solutions versus products and to help them with strategies as it relates to the technology. Today we're going to cover a few other things, but I want to, looks like my presentation isn't working. Bear with me. that's not good. My mouse or nothing is working now.
Did you get a DDoS attack like Pokemon Go?
Good question. I don't know what happened.
No, that happened. The servers were down yesterday. Apparently, Pokemon Go were victims of a DDoS attack. I Googled it.
Imagine that. Okay, you have to forgive me. I'm going to have to power cycle. I'm not getting anything. It's all locked up.
Now we'll just look at everybody's picture.
There you go. Okay, you probably can't see a thing now. I have the power cycle, so forgive me.
Alan's picture, is that your meniscus still?
Yeah, I'm too lazy to change it. And besides, I miss it.
Yeah, you do.
Well, obviously, we do want to make this somewhat interactive. We definitely don't want to go through a death by a PowerPoint scenario. We want to keep this interactive. We're going to talk about a couple of different fun technologies today. We're going to talk about SDN, the differences between SDN and MPLS. And then we're going to talk a little about UC as a service and contact center, call center as a service. So I'm rebooting, getting back online. Oh my gosh, what is going on? I lost most of my icons on my desktop.
Maybe we should talk about security.
Yeah, or Microsoft OS challenges. Wow. Yeah, when I hit record on this webinar, it started acting weird. There we go. I think I found what I need. Oh my God. Well, guys, forgive me. I'm not sure what is going on, but now, again, I somewhat lost control. There we go. All right, so let's try this again. I think I'm getting back on. All right, let me know when you can see my screen.
That's your home. That's your wallpaper.
Is it?
Yep.
You see the presentation?
Yeah, it just popped up.
All right, well, here we go. All right, guys, my apologies on the delay. Looks like we've got this figured out if I can find my mouse. All right. So, can everybody see that?
Yes.
All right. So, my apologies. We'll get this going now. A little bit about top speed data and the training series that we're doing. We want to discuss a lot of these things this summer, and we've hit a couple of them last month, and this month we're going to hit a couple more. But in terms of top speed data, who we are and how we can help you, we want to talk about next generation WANs. We want to talk about UCaaS and call center as a service, and go through some Q&As. Who is Top Speed Data? So as most of you probably know, we are a technology advisor and brokerage firm. We have relationships with well over 200 different technology providers in various different technology verticals. And we have over 400 years of combined technology experience on our team. We've got team members spread throughout the West Coast. And we offer a lot of simple one-touch problem-solving solutions to solve business problems with technology. We have been around since 2002, and we have over 500 different clients today. We're excited about the relationship that we have with TeamLogic and their team. And some of the products and services that we help people with and can help you and your clients with are listed here, from infrastructure as a service to typical network services, wireless services, hosted software as a service, DR as a service, obviously UCaaS, call center, IT as a service, and obviously security, network and data security. And obviously a lot of other ancillary options that come along in different needs. So why we're here today and how can we help? We all know what's going on in the industry. We see it. Things are changing. Typical IT resources, outsourced IT, managed service providers are going to have to change with it. And TeamLogic has aligned themselves with Top Speed Data to help facilitate that change and make the change as your customers change. The infrastructure is moving, as we all know. It's moving from a premise-based environment very quickly to a cloud-based environment. It's moving to more of a CapEx. It's moving from a CapEx expense to an OpEx expense. This does open a lot more doors for the TeamLogic franchises to manage infrastructure. However, you won't be involved in a lot of IT procurement, but you will be involved in a lot of management of resources in the cloud. And so our job is to help you find resources when and if you need them. As we talked earlier, one of the things we want to try to encourage all of us to do is sell problem-solving solutions versus products, and approach it with more of a consultative analysis than just finding a product and filling a hole. So as we relate to the fun stuff, let's talk a little about SDN. Software-defined networks are really quickly gaining a lot of attention, a lot of conversations. CIOs and CTOs are studying it, and some are making jumps away from a typical MPLS network to an SDN. Some are using SDN to accomplish the voice continuity, so they have no dropped calls in a call center or voice environment. But as we all know, SDN is a software-defined network. Basically, what it does is it's a software solution to a wide area network solution, or even a voice continuity solution that offers a lot of traffic routing, traffic shaping, that can provide a little bit more value to the end user than a traditional layer 3 or even a layer 2 network. And we'll get into some of that here in a moment. Primary ways that it's different is with an SDN and with an MPLS, you can get bidirectional QoS. However, with MPLS, you have traditionally a single connection with bidirectional QoS. With SDN, you can have multiple connections that offer bidirectional QoS. And the real key and the value to the end user is no drop packets. And a lot of these SDN providers are backing that up with an SLA, no matter your carrier. As we all know, the WAN is changing, just like the infrastructure environment is changing. And we obviously have to adapt and change with it and use these different solutions to solve problems for our customers. Traditionally, in a traditional WAN, you have a data center, your branch offices, and your headquarters all connected to the cloud. What we do know is the data center is shrinking. A lot of people are no longer buying space and power and managing it themselves. They're buying cloud resources, putting their services in a cloud, doing away with the data center and the troubles and costs that come with it. And there's more and more applications coming into the cloud today. Office 365, Salesforce, a lot of the applications that we do today are available in the cloud. There's still kind of a hybrid environment going on today. You can still buy Microsoft Exchange server, or you can go with Microsoft Exchange hosted, or you can go with an Office 365 solution. As we all know, Microsoft is quickly and eagerly pushing people away from premise-based environments. They've raised the requirement for EA agreements this month from 250 to 500 employees. So if you have less than 500 employees, you can no longer secure an EA agreement. And that's obviously a good message that they're sending out to push people away from premise-based acquisition of software. We know more and more people are accessing your WAN today, your partners, your customers, mobile devices, and so the whole wide area network is changing. And this software-defined network is enabling some changes that allows you to accommodate all these different resources. But there is a disconnect between the applications and the users. And because a lot of the applications are going into a cloud environment versus a private environment, it's changing the way the environment is built and designed. Traditional network delivery, it's not enough. As you can see here, you've got your LAN, you've got a router, you've got the central office, the colo, and the internet. And so things are changing. You have limited bandwidth, single point of failure in this type of environment with a traditional layer 3 network. As we know, there's a lot of issues with traditional MPLS. It's still a good, solid environment. It is still going to be around in 3 to 5 years, but the costs are traditionally going to be high. The bandwidth options are going to be low, and there's a lot of potential for packet loss, single point of failures, and when you have a single circuit, single router in an environment, that obviously poses a risk. Today, as we know, a lot of the large enterprise companies will have a primary and a secondary MPLS network to solve the IP packet loss or the single point of failure solution. And as we all know, the cost associated with that is pretty substantial. SDN could be a good solution for those large enterprises for their secondary network or even their primary network, or both. As it relates to MPLS, as we talked about earlier, it is a single point of failure. It is a single circuit. You can obviously get circuits any size you like, but the costs associated with those larger pipes, you start getting 10, 15, 20, 50 megs in a layer 3 environment, it gets very pricey. And then you still have that single point of failure. So trying to bond multiple carriers, multiple circuits into a layer 3 environment is very difficult, very expensive, and not done that often. Load balancing, very similar issues with load balancing. Obviously, you can do some prioritization in a traditional MPLS network and prioritize your traffic. Voice would have priority, critical apps have secondary, email might have third, web browsing might have fourth, and you have some good QoS options. But trying to balance that traffic and aggregate it is very difficult to do in a traditional MPLS network. So again, the main issues and challenges with MPLS today is the lack of the ability to bond, lack of load balancing. Packet prioritization is still there, but what we don't like is the single point of failure, the lack of bonding, the high price, the no alternate route unless you buy a whole new network. You can dramatically increase your network speed with SDN. You can increase reliability and eliminate failover, which adds a lot of value to what you bring to the table when you do talk to your end users about an SDN option. You can still have the bidirectional QoS over your public networks versus private. And it does provide an alternate solution in terms of cost effectiveness to an MPLS network. And the way they're doing it today is, as we all know, is you've got an office and they have an application that they can't afford to be down. Let's say they've got an application in the cloud, whether it be a Salesforce environment, whether it be an Office 365 application, whether it be a call center environment. And they need to access that cloud and that cloud environment. What we all know is a cloud application and a cloud provider is only as good as your ability to get to the cloud. If your office can't get to the cloud, then you're not going to have a good experience with those applications that are running in the cloud, whether they be voice or software. And so SDN kind of solves that problem and ensures the end user has the ability to get to the cloud, get to their applications in the cloud, whether or not a particular carrier might be down or not, whether a particular carrier's network might be down or not. And so in this environment, you can have multiple links. You can have multiple type of mechanisms from typical DSL to cable co, Ethernet over copper, obviously fiber-based Ethernet, typical Ethernet. You can use multiple connections. Some of these SDN providers offer a 6-port router, SDN router at the edge, and therefore you can connect up to 6 different public internet connections, including a lot of times they'll offer a connection for 4G wireless. A lot of these boxes now are starting to come with not only Ethernet ports, but also USB ports. So you can use USB application, USB interfaces versus just Ethernet interfaces. So how do you get the bandwidth? As we discussed, you can pull multiple connections into this SDN router. You'll have real-time, interactive, and routine solutions. This box will bond those multiple connections together into one larger pipe. In this scenario, you'll have a little over a meg of bandwidth available. And then what happens is, in this software-defined environment, it's smart enough to know that if one of those connections of public internet goes down, and in this case, the example shows a wireless connection went down, then you are in a situation where you have a IP-based failover kick in on the SDN router, and your bandwidth will decrease. Now you're at 61 megs versus a gig and a half or so, but you did not drop any packets. It aggregates all the bandwidth together into a single port, and so what you have basically is a scenario where you have a very fault-tolerant network. And the greatest value in my mind, and that we really like to talk to our clients about, is the fact that you have stateful failover, the fact that even if you do lose a connection, you will not lose a packet. These SDN devices are smart enough to know within milliseconds if one of those connections drops, it's going to take all the existing IP packets that are en route, and it's going to move all those packets within milliseconds over to the existing circuits that are still up and running. And therefore, your client will not lose any voice packets, not lose any data packets. They'll still be able to access all of their applications in the cloud resiliently. Once the SDN router identifies that the circuit is back up, then it will bring that circuit back into the bond and obviously make that bandwidth available. Now, what we've seen in the past with SDN is about a year and a half, 2 years ago, what we ran across was a lot of the clients didn't realize in this particular environment that they lost a connection. They had no idea that one of their internet connections went down simply because of the IP-based failover. And so what a lot of these SDN providers had to do was actually put in a notification application into this box to where if your clients in one of their access methods do go down, they will receive an email within moments notifying them of the circuit that went down and the carrier of that circuit, so that end user can go and open a trouble ticket with that particular carrier. Some of the SDN providers today will offer last mile management, and they will manage those 2 to 6 public internet connections on the behalf of the customer. They also a lot of times will offer optimization tools and visibility tools into the network on behalf of the customer. And in those situations where they do offer end user support for those last mile circuits, they will call the carrier on the behalf of the customer and get that circuit back up and running. How you get IP-based failovers, we kind of talked about. It's basically an on-ramp to the internet with the SDN box. Each packet is measured for quality with bidirectional QoS. It prioritizes the traffic in both directions, obviously. And the routable IT addresses from the cloud to non-premise equipment. So if you have traffic coming in, yeah, this thing isn't doing everything it used to do in terms of this presentation. So let's look at a couple of examples on cost savings. Now, in our experience, in some situations, you will see a cost savings. However, the way we try to position it with our clients is this: it's not so much about the savings, and sometimes it'll be there. It's more about the value and the resiliency of the network that you get. If you can get a very resilient network that provides you with double the bandwidth that you have today, and no drop packets for the same cost of your layer 3 network today, then there's a lot more value associated with SDN than traditional MPLS. It may not be a cost savings, but it's a lot more valuable and it's a lot more resilient. But in this situation, it's a good example. A lot of times you will see a cost savings. You have 50 megs of WAN. You have a managed router, continuity firewalls. The business class broadband is be a cable co type connection, and some static IPs, and you're looking about $2,400–2,500 a month for a 50 meg connection in a traditional WAN environment. As it relates to an SD-WAN environment that's comparable, you can get multiple internet connections with a firewall and an SDN router. In this case, it's from a good example from Big Leaf for 50 megs throughput bidirectional. And you can get that same 50 megs over multiple connections for considerably less, $1,000 in this example. Obviously, the price points are going to fluctuate. You look at a couple of different providers that we like is Big Leaf. They're very well designed in the nationwide footprint. Ariaka is another one we like. Ariaka is more so of a global play. Ariaka is more of an enterprise class solution for SDN. What I like about Ariaka is they built a layer 2 backbone themselves, and therefore not all of your traffic will be traversing the internet. Once it gets past the local regional POP, it'll be traversing their layer 2 network, and therefore offering you a little more security and less latency challenges than some of the other ones. Another benefit to some of these SDN providers, or most of them, is they have already established express routes to more of the different cloud providers. The Amazon Web Service, the Office 365 backbone, the Azure backbone, Salesforce, so on and so forth. And so another benefit to an SDN environment, other than the IP-based failover, is the ability to get to those applications in the cloud much quicker than going through the typical public internet connections. Now, here's some good examples of factors and why people choose SDN over MPLS. One thing that I caution you about is SDN is not for everyone. It is not typically an MPLS killer. It's just providing a lot more value than a traditional MPLS network. But it's not the best fit for every situation. Traditionally, when you look at primary networks and you look at global reach, when you look at bandwidth requirements, SDN may or may not be a good fit. It's just another arrow in your quiver as it relates to wide area networking tools. One thing that we like, again, about some of these SDN providers is they do offer a no cost, no commitment proof of concept for the end user. As we all know, the end user is a little skeptical of this newer technology. It is no longer bleeding edge technology. It is more cutting edge today. However, the market share is still owned by traditional layer 3 networks. And so those who are interested and intrigued and curious about SDN, they can prove it out. These SDN providers will offer an SDN router that they'll configure and ship to your end user's location, probably 2 to 3 different routers, 2 to 3 different locations. And they'll allow this customer to test this out for a week or two. Some of the challenges with that is one of the biggest challenges that you need to make sure your customer is aware of when they look at doing not only a proof of concept, but also migrating from an MPLS network to a SDN network is the IP schemes have to change. If you can imagine, when you get an internet connection from an ISP, they provide you with IP addresses. You have those IP addresses built into firewalls, all your public-facing IP devices. And so when you start looking at taking multiple internet connections, you have now multiple IPs, public-facing. And when you put an SDN router into this environment, and they are going to take those 2 or 3 or 4 internet connections and bond them together, they're going to encapsulate that bond and that pipe into a bidirectional QoS environment. And so now what you basically have is a virtual VPN tunnel across multiple internet connections. In order to get that bidirectional QoS and that VPN tunnel, these SDN providers will issue you or your clients net new IP addresses. The IPs that you receive from your internet provider will be no longer relevant. And so that is one of the biggest changes that you have to make sure your customers are aware of, is that there will be some IP scheme changes needed to be made within the infrastructure. In a proof of concept environment, that means that, you know, all your IPs that you have today, if you want to do a proof of concept for 2 or 3 weeks, you have to do one or two things. Obviously, you have to either change your IPs within your network and your network devices, or you have to secure alternate internet connections to run a private proof of concept outside your primary network. There's obviously costs associated with that, and it could be, you know, one of those things you just have to work around when you look at proving this out. But a lot of good benefits to a proof of concept. It gives your customers that warm and fuzzy, that feel that, yes, it is working. What we always encourage our customers to do in those environments is, after you have the SDN proof of concept device running on your network, we suggest that you put some packets across it, whether it be hosted voice calls, go try to access your Office 365, go try to browse the internet, go, obviously send some emails, and then go into that SDN router and unplug one of the connections. You should not drop any packets. If you do drop packets, then obviously there's some configuration changes that need to be made. But most of the time, these SDN providers are pretty good at their configuration and design. And 9 times out of 10, when they go in there through the proof of concept philosophy and start unplugging connections on the back of that SDN router, they'll notice they didn't drop any packets. They notice they didn't drop any calls. And so that's the best way to proof this out. So the try it before you buy it idea is a good approach to take to help your customers feel that warm and fuzzy. Some of the questions that you would use to identify if this is a good solution for them are right there. You obviously want to know the different locations that they have, what public bandwidth they have available today, what their connectivities are, what applications are running in the cloud, do they need or want optimization, and obviously what's your ultimate outcome. A lot of the SDN providers will obviously talk about, in a proof of concept environment, they'll want to know what your customers would consider a successful proof of concept before they ship those SDN routers out. And it's just one of those things where you and your customer work together to identify the successful parameters around a proof of concept prior to the deployment of a proof of concept scenario. Any questions on SDN? A lot of benefits associated with this. We really like it. Again, it's not for everyone, but it is another alternative to a traditional network. It is a great alternative for call center environments, which we're going to cover here in a moment, because it does provide some call center resiliency and voice continuity, no dropped calls, which, as we all know, in a call center environment is vital. All right, let's talk about UCaaS. UC as a service is quickly, one of those technologies that we see a lot of people adopting. 7, 8 years ago, it was similar to where SDN is today. 7, 8 years ago, it was cutting edge. It was new. A lot of people were apprehensive about getting away from a premise-based PBX and putting their voice in the cloud. But there's a lot of benefits to it. Benefits are what you see here. Again, the PBX environment is changing, just like the wide area network and the infrastructure environment. People want more control. They want mobility. They want unified messaging. They want conferencing. They want presence. And obviously, in a hosted PBX, UC as a service environment, they can get all that. There's a lot of different providers in this space. It seems like everyone today is providing hosted PBX. what we will see in about 2 to 3 years, everyone will be providing SDN as well. There's only a small handful of SDN providers today. However, in 2 to 3 years, most of your network providers will have an SDN option, just like the hosted PBX has matured into multiple carriers having multiple options. These are some of the providers that we like. BroadSoft is the largest white-labeled UC platform in the world. Then you have the ShoreTels and Cisco's that have their own platform that's pretty robust. Obviously, Microsoft is getting into the space rather quickly. Their Skype for Business is not quite matured, but they just rolled it out 6-8 months ago. And so we're going to see some really neat changes in the Skype for Business in the coming months and years. Why UCaaS? The thing is obviously our job is to solve problems for our customers. And a lot of their problems are associated with finances. The CFOs make decisions a lot based upon the costs. And some of your clients have capital, but they want to reserve their capital for mergers and acquisitions or organic growth. They don't want to spend their capital on technology that depreciates. So, in that environment, an OpEx approach to procurement for PBX solutions is a great approach. They can buy it by the drink. You buy it by the user, and each user can be unique in terms of the features and functionalities. One user can have no features, and then some users can have all the features. And so what you're seeing today is, 10 years ago, if you wanted all the features and functionalities that a traditional PBX offered, you had to buy a traditional PBX switch, deploy it into your phone closet, and it was very expensive, a large CapEx expense. And then everyone company-wide had all the same features available to them. Well, there was a lot of cost lost because not everyone in the enterprise needed all those features and functionalities. And so in the UCaaS environment, the heavy phone users and mobility workforce, you pay a little bit more for them to have the mobility and the features and functionalities to accommodate the heavy usage. But then your team members in accounts payable, accounts receivable, HR, who may not be on the phone that often, you can lower the cost of their seats by obviously lowering the feature set. And so it's a piecemeal, and you can buy it by the drink for each unique user. Going back to the financial model and the CFO's decisions around acquisitions of technology is you can, in a UCaaS environment, have a very predictable monthly cost versus in a typical premise-based environment where usage is involved. You don't know what your usage might be every month. In traditional, more so UCaaS environments, a lot of the usage is included at no additional cost, mainly because it's all IP-based. And so in this environment, you'll have a very predictable cost for the term of the contract. Another reason why UCaaS is hybrid integration. If you have a multiple location, geographically diverse enterprise, and you've got 8 offices around the nation, but 4 of those offices you've already acquired a premise-based PBX, or maybe even a different hosted PBX environment. In some cases, you can integrate those environments together. It's a little more complex. There's SIP trunking and cross connects involved, but it does offer some integration, and therefore the acquisitions that you've made for premise-based PBXs in those 4 branches, you can run out your investment into those and not have to replace the entire enterprise at the same time. As we talked about, the features and functionalities associated with UC as a service it's very broad, and you can get almost every bell and whistle that you would ever want in an enterprise class UCaaS environment. Another benefit is this is as a service. UCaaS is as a service, and therefore it's fully managed, fully updated, and completely end-to-end management by your UCaaS provider. So you don't have to allocate resources within your IT department or within your telecom department to manage the PBX any longer. It's all outsourced. The handsets are generally, in most cases, owned by the UCaaS provider. They're just renting them to you, just like the POEs and any gateway devices that they may put on the edge. And therefore, it's all hands-off. The IT department can move forward with managing more strategic initiatives within their IT department and not have to worry about the handsets maintenance or the POE maintenance. Okay. Application integration. It's been difficult in the past in an environment where you need to integrate other applications you might have running on your desktop or in your environment. Microsoft Lync server, for example. A lot of people have already purchased a Lync server, and the main benefit to a Lync server is presence information. And so in a PBX environment, the integration may not be applicable with a premise-based solution. However, in a cloud-based PBX as a service, you can buy a plug-in, and that plug-in is based upon users. So you buy it by the drink. You may not want everyone in your enterprise or need everyone in your enterprise to have presence information with their Microsoft Lync or now Skype for Business. And so you just buy it by the drink. But that plug-in will allow for presence information to populate in that UC tool. Similar things occur with other applications in the cloud or on-premise, such as CRMs and other things that we'll get into here in a minute. Call center as a service is quickly changing. I think the trend of today's call is definitely technology has changed and continues to change. There's so much that call centers are doing today with different applications, from IVRs to multi-channel chats environments to CRMs, integrating with databases. Obviously, reporting is vital, ACDs, and dialers. Multi-channel is really probably the most popular functionality of most call centers today. They need to be able to communicate between the call center agent and the end user using multiple channels, text, chat, web, social media, SMS. And so a call center environment today needs to be able to integrate with all those different types of technologies into a single platform. And multi-channel functionality is one of those things that we really talk to our customers about who are talking about call center environments and their needs to make sure they can meet all the different geographical and demographics within their customers that call into their call center. Call center integration is becoming more and more prevalent. We're starting to see call center integration happen not just in a call center environment, but also in just a regular host of PBX users environment, mainly because they want to track their customers in a more robust fashion. And so if you have accounts payable calling a customer, they want that call logged automatically into their CRM so they can track the attention that the customers are getting. And so you'll see CRM integration coming into play more than just in a call center environment, but also in a PBX environment. What they're looking for is screen pops. When a customer calls your DID or your phone number, it'll integrate into the CRM and it'll provide a screen pop notifying the agent who is calling. And therefore, once they pick up the handset, they'll already be able to answer the phone saying, "Hi, Barbara, it's good to hear from you." More importantly, it'll provide call logs. Now, without the call center agent having to log the call into the CRM, it'll automatically be logged with a time and date stamp. Obviously, call recording is becoming more and more prevalent in a call center environment as well. And so a lot of times you'll have the ability to have call recordings sent to the call center supervisors from the hosted PBX provider within moments after the call is terminated, and then they can just take that call recording WAV file and embed it into the CRM, so it's all in one location. Now, as we talked about earlier, one of the greatest benefits in my opinion, to SDN, and the greatest value to an SDN environment is voice continuity as it relates to hosted PBX and call center environments. In my opinion, if you have a customer that is a call center, and the simple question you ask them is your call center a revenue-producing center? 9 times out of 10 it is. And therefore, there's a lot of revenue that the company has in jeopardy that they want to protect. And so if you have dropped calls in your call center environment, it's going to affect that revenue. And so in a call center environment, or even more robust PBX environment, we suggest you look at designing an SDN solution to complement that hosted PBX. Again, selling solutions to problems versus products. So again, in an SDN environment, if you have multiple connections coming into that SDN box, this could be a completely separate network from their MPLS and just be dedicated for voice. But it's a more resilient solution than some of the others that are out there. All right, any questions as it relates to hosted PBX, call center, multi-channel, anything of that nature? It's a fun space. There's a lot of money in call center. More and more companies are getting into the call center space because of the cost for entry into call center today is not what it used to be. It's a lot less expensive. It's a lot easier to get into call center environments, and so you're going to start seeing more and more people having 3 or 4 people in a call center environment with an ACD that is integrated into a CRM. And in my humble opinion, it's not going to be very long before almost every person in an enterprise has CRM integration tied to a UC platform, tied to a hosted PBX with SDN backing it up and protecting it. All right, well that covers my topics for the day. We appreciate everyone's attendance, and we're excited to help you guys grow throughout the next couple of years. Our partnership is strategic for both of us, and we feel that we can add value to TeamLogic, and TeamLogic adds value to Top Speed Data. We want to pass business to you, and we want to have you pass business to us when it makes sense as well. Next training date is the 25th of August. This will complete our 3-month summer cloud training series. We're going to cover proactive versus reactive security. We're going to cover infrastructure as a service and talk about the quickly changing infrastructure environment from a premise to a cloud-based. We're going to touch on HIPAA and PCI compliance as well as it relates to email, as it relates to infrastructure, as it relates to even voice services. So thank you guys. Appreciate your attendance. We look forward to working with you. There's team members from Top Speed Data will be reaching out to you today to see if you have any questions associated with the webinar. Again, we're here to help you. Just let us know how we can help you solve problems for your customers. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.